Hey there, aspiring guitarist. Today I want to talk about doing your own guitar maintenance and when you need to back off and take it to a luthier or a guitar tech. I like to do my own maintenance. I like to do my own setups. And I do a little bit of everything from dress fret wire ends with fret sprout to setting the action to filing down a nut to many different changing tuners, of course, strings. Some people get irritated at people that don't change their own strings, but some people don't want to. I mean, it's your choice what you're going to do and what you're not going to do and have to go to a professional to do. It's also a reason I've done a previous video of reasons to buy a low end guitar or a quote cheap guitar. Um, that's how I learned to do most everything. I was scared to do things on a better guitar. I use some lower end electrics and acoustics to practice things because I knew if I screwed up something, and I have, that, you know, it was a lower cost guitar. Um, I haven't ever destroyed a guitar, it still remained playable. I've certainly scratched them up and not thought about when I was taking a screwdriver and it got away and banged the finish and different things like that. And I've certainly filed a nut down way too low, added back, I played with it, pulled the nut out, put another one in. But let me tell you about a couple I've done over the past month, and I'm in the middle of doing it. To give you an idea, when I went, okay, no, I'm not doing that. Now, a simple one is this is my wife's um, Koa travel size guitar. In fact, it's a traveler guitar, and you'll notice it's missing a tuner, the low pitch E. And that's because I pulled it off. I've got a little plastic bag here. And I began trying to find the replacement tuners. I love this guitar. It's got a beautiful sound. It is all Koa. Sadly, Traveler doesn't make it anymore. It was part of their Redlands series, but this one was very, very advanced. It had the bevel, and the bevel on the cutaway as well. The Koa made it just sound beautiful. I've destrung it. But what I did is the tuners. Now, it doesn't bother me to pick up a guitar and have to tune it, especially one sitting for a long time. I know it bothers some people. I like to tune a guitar when I pick it up. It starts me having a connection to the guitar. I also like the relative tune, which I've got a video about that. I'll get one, usually the first string, high E string pitch in tune, and I'll tune the rest of the guitar from that and not use a chromatic or a digital tuner. But anyway, so I love this guitar. My wife loves this guitar, but the tuners didn't stay in tune while you were playing it. Now I'm not saying that was Traveler's fault. I mean, it could have been anything. Sitting up could have been anything. But regardless, it's not a blame. I've already said this is a great guitar. I'm sad they don't make it anymore. Because it's just got a beautiful sound. It's easy to play. It's small. My wife loves it. But it wouldn't stay in tune during your playtime. What I mean is, you could start to strum and play, and it would go out of tune in the middle of playing in no time, and then tune it back up, do it again. Now that's a no-no. I don't mind tuning a guitar Um, when I pick it up, and I don't even mind tuning it 30 minutes into playing, but if I've got to tune it in the middle of one song, it's time to fix something. So what did I do? This is something I can easily do myself. The very first thing I did was to measure this hole with my caliper and get the correct size. Then I did a couple of Google searches on, I wanted Grovers. I realized there's other good uh, uh, tuners, but yeah, this is what I wanted. So anyway, I went to the website. It's grotto.com. Did I have that right? grotro.com. And then when you get there, you're going to see, you may be shocked to know if you didn't know that it's Grover Trophy Musical Products. So you have to actually hit the drop down to pick the tuners. But wealth of knowledge. After I'd done the Google search and figured out what size fit the hole, the measurement, and I started looking, and so some Grovers popped up. I started looking at Grover, and I went to just a few of their selections, and they have a schematic diagram in a PDF, and I downloaded it. And you may say, oh, I don't want to fool with that, but it actually gave me the measurements of everything. Not just the hole size, but also gave me the measurements of the screw hole, where I was going to have to put it on, how far away it was. So I was able to take that and my caliper, come back to the guitar, and I ordered those tuners. They've come in. I pulled one out. I'm going to do this today. And I went ahead and pulled one out, dropped right in perfectly. The screw hole lined up perfectly. The posts dropped through. So, that's an example of something that, yeah, you might have to do a little investigative work, but if you're willing to stick through it, you can do it. And you're not going to damage anything. I mean, unless you start poking a screwdriver in the screw and don't take your time and be careful. So that's an example of, okay, this is a little hard. I've never done it. I'm going to have to use some math. Do I have the correct tool to know what the size is? Because in something that fine, it's one thing to have a precision caliper, that can handle that, that opens up. I don't know if you're familiar with calipers, but they open up and they give you, you can measure on this one or measure on that one. They'll give you inches, millimeters. You can zero it. Great device to have for guitars. Measuring action. I mean, you can also measure the action, string action, with templates you get from StewMac and Music Nomad. But, if you start trying to measure on a regular old tape measure, you may not have the precision you need to do what I did with the tuner. So that's an example of just putting a little effort in. And if you have the right tool, and sometimes you have to go, that's Blaze the cat sneezing up there in the cat tree over here. Sometimes you have to ask yourself, is it worth buying the tool, depending on the cost, for this one-time job? Most times it's worth it for me because I have a lot of guitars. But if you just had one, a good caliper can, cost money. Whereas you might be able to go to your local guitar store and the guitar tech might charge you $60, or so. Who knows? 30, 40, 50, 99, depends on what it is. So you have to weigh that out. Now, let me show you an example of something that I wanted to do. I've done it before to a degree, but I realized I needed to back off. And this is a Recording King, and it's part of the Dirty 30 series. Recording King has its own sound. It's just, hey, Blaze, there's Blaze cat over there. Uh, and there's a little string hangs down there. That's what he loves to chew on that little string. But Recording King has its own sound. And their pickup has its own sound as well. And so, they call it a vintage sound because it is a vintage sound. So I bought this guitar because I loved the display in it. And of course, it had no pickup in it. You could buy them with a pickup, but they didn't have any. They didn't even have the pickup by itself. It was on back order. So I asked to be notified when it came in. Part of this pickup is, you've got to have a place to put the amp jack in, the 1/4-inch cable. And this only had a regular strap button. Well, that didn't bother me. I was like, I've stuck, Soundhole. This is a Soundhole pickup. It's mounted in the Soundhole. I've actually put them in and run them to here. That by Blaze, that I can handle. What I was scared about was the cable, because I'd done it on a couple that the cable just dangled right there. And in fact, sometimes when you move, the cable would come out, even though I had got it to here, bore out, the hole to make it the size, because the pickup comes with the cable, and it comes with the jack input that replaces the strap button to where you can plug the cable into here. But I was like, okay, I've done that before. I know how to de-string a guitar, pull the strings to the side of the fretboard where I don't have to replace strings. I've had to do that to go in and put 9-volt batteries into certain Gibson styles and Epiphones and things like that. What I didn't feel comfortable with was taking the cable over here to the side, the waist of the guitar, and putting one of the little clamps in there to hold the cable in place to keep it from jiggling. I don't mind boring straight ahead. Now, I realize a lot of you that are pros may be going, oh, it's nothing, man. I'm not going to ruin a guitar when I feel like, nah, you might ruin it. I might have poked a hole through the sides, and I didn't want to do it. So I carried it to my guitar tech. It was $60. De-strung it, put it in, tested it out. It sounds gorgeous. So that's an example of when you got to back off. So my point is, there are many things you can do yourself, even if they're a little challenging. I always recommend starting out with a budget or even a torn up guitar to learn to adjust things and things like that. But we've all got an ego. I'm not going to let my ego ruin one of my guitars if I could help it. Now, I realize there's the money issue. I try to save money by doing my own maintenance. I mean, you see the workbench behind me, and even a vise and a work light, and I got a lot of StewMac and Music Nomad tools, and I've been doing this a while, but I am by no means a guitar tech. I just work on some of my own guitars. There's things I feel really comfortable with. There's things I clear off the bench behind, get my mind focused before I even start. I even write out, okay, here's the steps you're going to do. I go to YouTube. That's a beautiful thing on YouTube. I'm a regular, in fact, I'm a Patreon member of Philip McKnight's Know Your Gear podcast, and I pay to be a Patreon member because he gives so much information that I know I'd pay a fortune for from someone else to learn. So evaluate, think through the things you want to do. I encourage you to really think it through. I can't tell you what to do, and you shouldn't. No matter what I say, you need to weigh it out and make your own decisions. I'd hate to know you ruined the guitar. I realize you may want the guitar for something immediately that brings up the having a backup guitar if you're a gigging musician or play at church and something went wrong, you got to have it fixed. I've been in that position to the point that back when I was in high school, I wasn't retired and had a guitar collection. Heck, I told you I bought my first guitar with 3 years of cutting grass money as a pre-teenager. So I realize money is always an issue, always. But you have to think these things through. And when I was in high school, there were times I had to borrow a guitar from a friend. I had something go wrong with my guitar, and I had to be there Sunday to play at church. So you do what you got to do. But anyway, I hope this sheds a tiny bit of guitar talk. Some thoughts on. Certainly don't feel bad, especially at someone else's bequest because you didn't do something that they know how to do. That's just, I ain't even gonna go there. You know what I always say: it's your guitar journey, not theirs. Even when they come across bold and jerky and snarky, like I've always said, listen to them. Listen to them. You might learn something. But then take their delivery with a grain of salt, so, or not, that's up to you. It's your guitar journey. I hope it's a blessed one. And most of all, like I always say, and I do mean it, happy picking.